My wife mocked real men don't cry like babies as she took everything, so I inherited 180 million and bought evidence to destroy her. I am 33. 6 months ago, my wife Ashley told me real men don't cry like babies. Maybe living in your car will toughen you up, as security escorted me out of my own job. Last week, I inherited $180 million from my dead uncle and recordings of her entire conspiracy. Her federal sentencing is tomorrow. I know this sounds insane, but I need to get this story out somewhere before the trials end, and I can finally move on with my life. I am Ryan Mitchell. Been working operations management since college. Steady job at Mitchell Logistics here in Denver, pulling in $78,000 a year. Not rich, but comfortable middle-class life. Ashley and I met 4 years ago at a coffee shop near the yoga studio where she taught part-time classes. She seemed perfect back then. Always talking about mindfulness and simple living. Down to earth, in her yoga pants and oversized sweaters. We got married 2 years later in a small ceremony at her parents' place in Boulder. Her dad walked her down the aisle while her mom cried happy tears. My parents flew in from San Antonio. My sister Carmen drove down from Fort Collins. Perfect autumn wedding with golden aspen leaves and mountain views. For the first year of marriage, everything felt exactly right. I had bought our 3-bedroom townhouse in Lakewood before we met. Used savings from my first few years working plus a small inheritance from my grandfather. Nothing fancy but solid investment. Mortgage almost paid off by the time we married. Ashley moved in with her BMW and endless shopping bags. Immediately started talking about renovations. This kitchen looks so dated. Ryan, the master bathroom too. We should update everything to match our lifestyle better. So we renovated. Granite countertops, custom cabinets, walk-in shower with rain head. Great, cost more than planned. But Ashley insisted it was investment in our... You have to spend money to make money. Babe, successful couples live in homes that reflect their success. My boss Brad Kelton had been like a mentor since he hired me 5 years ago when Mitchell Logistics was half its current size. He promoted me twice, even gave a speech at our wedding reception. Ryan Mitchell is the kind of employee who builds companies, he had said, raising his champagne. Loyal, dedicated, always puts the team first. Ashley, you have got yourself a winner here. Brad went through a nasty divorce about 8 months ago. His ex-wife took half his assets and moved to California with their twin daughters. He started staying late at the office, talking about how quiet the house felt, how hard it was starting over at 42. Around the same time, Ashley quit teaching yoga. I want to focus on exploring my potential, she explained. Maybe start a consulting business or get into wellness coaching. I need time to figure out what I really want to do with my life. What she really wanted, apparently, was to spend more time shopping and complaining about our lifestyle. Our townhouse was too small for entertaining. Our cars were embarrassing compared to what her college friends drove. I was working too many hours, but somehow not making enough money. Every conversation became about what we couldn't afford, what other couples had that we didn't, how I needed to be more ambitious if I wanted her to be happy long term. The red flags started small. Ashley's phone became password protected. She had step outside to take calls, claiming it was her sister or college roommates. Girls' nights happened twice a week now, always at places she couldn't specify afterwards. We just drove around and talked. You know how women are. When I asked for details about her day, she would get defensive. Why are you interrogating me? I am not your prisoner, Ryan. I am allowed to have my own life and friends. I trusted her completely. Ashley was my wife. Brad was my mentor. The possibility that they were conspiring never entered my mind until the Tuesday morning that destroyed everything. Brad called me into his office at 8:30, said he needed to discuss some irregularities that had come to light. I walked in, expecting to talk about the Peterson Industries contract renewal, our biggest client worth $2 million annually in shipping business. Instead, Ashley was sitting in the chair next to Brad's desk, like she belonged there, wearing a black dress I had never seen before, and the pearl necklace her grandmother left her. Her expression was cold, calculating, nothing like the woman who had kissed me goodbye that morning. Ryan, we need to talk, Brad said, his voice carrying authority I had never heard directed at me before. There have been some serious irregularities discovered in your expense reports over the past several months. I stared at them both, my brain struggling to process what was happening. What kind of irregularities? Every receipt is documented and approved. Ashley smiled, but it wasn't the smile I had fallen in love with. This was something predatory. Show him the evidence, Brad. He deserves to see exactly what he has been caught doing. Brad turned his computer monitor toward me. Security footage began playing, showing me apparently stumbling around the office Christmas party, leaning inappropriately close to female colleagues. My words slurring in conversations taken completely out of context. The video was expertly edited, spliced together to make me look drunk and unprofessional. In reality, I had had exactly 2 beers over 4 hours and spent most of the party talking business with clients. We have also discovered you have been using company funds for personal expenses. Brad continued, sliding a thick folder across his mahogany desk. These receipts show dinners and entertainment expenses that were actually personal dates with your wife, charged to the Peterson Industries account. My stomach dropped as I flipped through the papers. Brad, you specifically told me to include Ashley in client dinners. You said it looked more professional, that Peterson liked seeing stable family men. I never said any such thing, Brad replied smoothly, his face showing perfect confusion. That would be completely inappropriate use of company resources. We have policies against exactly this kind of abuse. Ashley stood up, moving to stand behind Brad's chair. Her hand rested on his shoulder in a gesture that made everything suddenly horribly clear. And that is not all, Ryan. Sarah from accounting has filed a formal complaint about your inappropriate behavior toward her. Sarah was a sweet kid, maybe 23, fresh out of college with her business degree. We had talked maybe 10 times in 5 years, always about work schedules or project deadlines. This is completely insane. None of this actually happened. That is not how Sarah remembers it, Ashley said, her voice ice cold. She has documented multiple instances of you making her uncomfortable with personal comments and unwanted attention. Brad nodded gravely. We take workplace harassment very seriously here at Mitchell Logistics. Combined with the financial irregularities and the drinking problem you have clearly developed, we have no choice but to terminate your employment immediately. Drinking problem? I don't have a drinking problem. This is fabricated evidence. Edited footage. Ashley's laugh was like breaking glass. Ryan, you have been staying out late, coming home smelling like alcohol, becoming increasingly aggressive and paranoid at home. I have been documenting everything for months because I was scared of what you might do. Documenting what? I have never laid a hand on you. I work late because you wanted the kitchen renovation, the new furniture, the lifestyle upgrades that require overtime income. That is not how I remember it, she said. My lawyer says the evidence supports a clear case for emotional abuse and financial irresponsibility. I am filing for divorce today, and I will be seeking full possession of the house and assets due to your misconduct. Brad stood up, straightening his tie with practiced sympathy. Security will escort you out immediately and pack your personal belongings. The company car needs to be returned by 5 p.m. today, and your corporate credit cards are canceled effective immediately. I sat there in complete shock as my entire life disintegrated in real time. 5 years. Brad. 5 years I have built this division from nothing. The Peterson contract alone brings in 40% of our annual revenue, which I will be handling personally going forward, he said. Your replacement is already being briefed on the transition. We need to protect our client relationships from any fallout from this situation. Ashley's voice cut through my disbelief like a blade. Real men don't cry like babies when they face consequences for their actions. Ryan, maybe living in your car will teach you some responsibility and help you grow up. Security appeared at the door. 2 guards I had known for years, Jerry and Mike, both avoiding eye contact, as they waited to escort me out like a common criminal. As they walked me through the office, I heard Ashley's voice behind me, sweet as honey. So about that business proposal we discussed. Brad, when can we start planning the new consulting division? By midnight, I was parked behind a Walmart on Wadsworth Boulevard, trying to figure out how to sleep in my 10-year-old Toyota Camry with everything I owned stuffed in the trunk and back seat. For 2 months, I lived like a ghost haunting parking lots across Denver. Walmart became my bedroom, rotating between 3 different locations to avoid suspicious security guards. Planet Fitness on Hampton was my bathroom and shower until my membership expired, and I couldn't afford renewal. McDonald's dollar menu became my primary food source. One McChicken sandwich stretched into 2 meals when eaten slowly enough. I sent out over 200 job applications through library computers and Wi-Fi stolen from coffee shops. Somehow, every logistics company in Colorado had already heard about my misconduct at Mitchell. Brad's influence reached temp agencies, day labor companies, even retail positions that should have been desperate for workers. My family thought I was taking time to figure things out after the divorce. I was too ashamed to tell them I was homeless, sleeping in my car, watching my life savings disappear, one fast food meal at a time. Then the 15th of December happened. I was parked behind a Target in Aurora at 6 a.m., using their Wi-Fi to check email on my phone, when an elderly woman knocked on my window. She was impeccably dressed in a navy wool coat, carrying a leather briefcase, like it contained nuclear launch codes. "Ryan Mitchell?" she asked. She asked when I rolled down the cracked window. "Yeah, that is me. If this is about repossessing the car, I already told them they can have it next week. Mr. Mitchell, my name is Margaret Walsh. I am an estate attorney from Chicago. Your uncle Thomas Mitchell passed away 2 weeks ago, and I need to discuss his will with you immediately." That is when everything I thought I knew about my family turned out to be a lie. Update 1. Sorry for delay updating. Had to drive to Chicago to meet estate lawyers, and my phone died somewhere in Kansas. Finally got everything sorted, and you guys will not believe what I learned. Thomas Mitchell wasn't just my uncle. He was my dad's older brother, supposedly killed in Vietnam in 1969 when my dad was 18. Closed casket funeral, military honors. My grandparents never talked about him after that. Family photos from before 1970 were mysteriously missing from albums. I grew up thinking my dad was an only child. Turns out, Thomas came home from Vietnam in 1968 with a serious gambling problem and $40,000 in debt to some very dangerous people in Chicago. Rather than destroy our family by getting them involved, he made a desperate choice. With help from a buddy who worked at the VA, he faked his own death and disappeared. Thomas took what money he had left and drove to Seattle. For the next 54 years, he built Mitchell Freight Solutions into one of the largest independent shipping companies on the West Coast. Never married. No kids. Lived quietly in a waterfront house in Tacoma. But he never stopped watching our family from a distance. Margaret Walsh explained everything during our meeting at her Chicago office. Your uncle hired private investigators to monitor your family periodically over the decades. Nothing intrusive, just making sure everyone was safe and successful. When you got married, he had your wife investigated as routine background check. He what? The investigation 6 months ago revealed Ashley's affair with your employer and their conspiracy to frame you for embezzlement. Thomas instructed me to document everything but not intervene unless your life was in immediate danger. She opened a thick file folder and spread photos across the conference table. Ashley and Brad together at restaurants, hotels, shopping centers. The timestamps showed their relationship started 8 months ago, long before I suspected anything was wrong. But the recordings were what destroyed me completely. Margaret played them through her laptop speakers. Hours of conversations between Ashley and Brad, planning my destruction in methodical detail like a business transaction. Ashley's voice from September. Ryan's so trusting, so naive about people's motivations. Give me 3 more months, and he will be completely isolated. No job, no friends, no credibility. Then we can start the real business without any complications from his side. Brad's response. The Peterson contract alone will set us up for life once Mitchell Logistics folds. We will have their client list, their shipping routes, their vendor relationships, but none of the overhead or employee obligations. They weren't just destroying me personally, they were planning to collapse the entire company Brad had spent 15 years building, putting dozens of people out of work, all to steal client relationships for their own venture. Another recording from October, just days before they fired me. Ashley, the domestic abuse documentation is almost complete. I have got photos of the bruises from that hiking accident last summer, but I am claiming they are from Ryan's violence. My sister will testify about the phone calls where I was crying about his behavior, Brad. And the financial evidence is bulletproof. We have been moving money through dummy accounts for months, then documenting Ryan's access to make it look like embezzlement. Even if he gets a lawyer, the paper trail will destroy him. Ashley, what about the employees who might defend him? Brad, already handled. Janet Flores is too scared about her daughter's college tuition to risk her job. Sarah thinks she is helping expose a real predator. Everyone else will stay quiet to protect their own positions. I had to pause the recording because my hands were shaking too badly to hold my coffee cup. Margaret waited patiently while I processed what I was hearing. There is more, she said softly, about why Thomas chose to reveal himself now. The final recording was Thomas himself, speaking to his private investigator just weeks before he died. Ryan's exactly like I was at his age, too trusting, too loyal, willing to sacrifice everything for people who don't deserve it. But he has also got the integrity I lost when I ran away from my problems. He is going to face this head on, and when he does, I want him to have every advantage I can give him. Thomas knew he was dying. Pancreatic cancer, diagnosed 6 months ago. Prognosis of weeks, rather than months. He had spent his final time making sure I would have not just money, but justice. The inheritance is substantial, Margaret continued. $180 million in assets. Mitchell Freight Solutions, which employs over 300 people, real estate holdings across Washington and Oregon, and liquid assets in accounts that have been carefully managed for decades. But Thomas had left me one final choice. Your uncle specified that you must decide how to use the evidence. Personal revenge, ruin their reputations, destroy their relationship, make them suffer emotionally, or legal justice, turn everything over to federal authorities, and let the law handle their crimes. I thought about Ashley's voice on those recordings, cold and calculating as she planned to send me to prison for crimes they committed. I thought about Brad destroying a company and dozens of livelihoods for money he didn't need. I thought about Sarah, manipulated into believing she was protecting other women from a predator. Then I thought about Thomas, who chose to run from his problems instead of facing them, spending 54 years watching his family from a distance because he was too ashamed to come home. On Friday morning, I made my choice. I walked into the FBI field office in Denver and asked to speak with someone about corporate fraud and conspiracy. Agent Sarah Rodriguez listened to my story with growing interest, especially when I mentioned the recordings and financial evidence spanning multiple years. Mr. Mitchell, we have actually been investigating Mitchell Logistics for potential bid rigging and tax evasion as part of a broader industry inquiry. What you are describing could be exactly the evidence we need for federal charges. I handed over copies of everything, the recordings, the financial documents, the photographs, the evidence of conspiracy spanning 8 months. Agent Rodriguez's expression grew more serious with each item. This is substantial evidence of multiple federal crimes: wire fraud, conspiracy, embezzlement, money laundering, potentially racketeering if their new business venture involves the pattern you have described. Are you prepared to testify? Agent Rodriguez. They tried to send me to prison for crimes they committed. They destroyed my career, my marriage, my reputation. They manipulated a young woman into filing false harassment claims. Yes, I am prepared to testify. I thought about Thomas's waterfront house in Tacoma, the shipping company that now belonged to me, the fortune that could buy anything I wanted. I am not going anywhere, but here is what Brad and Ashley don't know yet. While they think they are building their new consulting business on the ashes of my destroyed life, they also don't know that their biggest client, Peterson Industries, called me yesterday. David Peterson had heard about arrests that are coming and wanted to discuss moving his shipping business to Mitchell Freight Solutions. Ryan, I have been working with you for 3 years. Not Brad, Peterson said. You are the one who understood my business, delivered consistent results, built the relationship. If Brad's really done what I am hearing, I want to explore other options immediately. Justice is about to be served, and it is going to be so much sweeter than revenge. Update 2: This keeps getting more unreal, but I promised updates, and you guys have been incredibly supportive. The arrests happened last Friday night at Mitchell Logistics' annual Christmas party. Same Marriott ballroom where I had worked the event for 5 years, where Ashley and Brad had probably planned my destruction while I networked with clients, completely oblivious. Agent Rodriguez called Thursday evening, Mr. Mitchell. We are executing arrest warrants tomorrow night. I thought you would want to know the timeline. I was sitting in Thomas's house, my house now, looking out at Puget Sound. 4 bedrooms, private dock, his yacht still moored. Both of them? I asked. Both, plus 2 other executives. Your evidence opened a much larger investigation. Friday night, FBI showed up at the company party during Brad's annual speech about values. Janet called Saturday with details. Brad Kelton, you are under arrest for conspiracy, wire fraud, embezzlement, and money laundering. Agent Rodriguez announced to the entire ballroom. Complete silence except for handcuffs clicking. Ashley tried slipping out, but agents were waiting. Ashley Mitchell, you are under arrest for conspiracy, money laundering, and filing false police reports. She corrected, it is Ashley Kelton now. We are engaged. News to Brad, apparently. Sunday morning, David Peterson called. The biggest client Brad had stolen from me. Ryan, I heard about the arrests. Brad approached me last month about his new firm. But I have worked with you for 3 years. You knew my business. Brad barely knew our contracts. By Wednesday, 4 Mitchell Logistics clients had contacted me, following me to Mitchell Freight Solutions. Perfect irony. Brad destroyed Mitchell Logistics trying to steal their clients. But his arrest drove those same clients directly to my inherited company. His greed didn't just fail. It actively helped me succeed. I moved to Tacoma this week. The management team already knew about me. Thomas had talked about his nephew in logistics being targeted by corrupt people. They have been expecting me for months. The preliminary hearings are scheduled for the 15th of January. Brad and Ashley are being held without bail due to flight risk. Apparently, when you steal millions and plan to start a business in the Cayman Islands, judges take that seriously. Their lawyers are already talking plea deals, which means they know exactly how strong the evidence is against them. 8 months of recorded conversations, financial documents showing systematic embezzlement, witness testimony from employees who were manipulated into the conspiracy. I will be at both trials to testify, to look them in the eye and let them know exactly how their plan worked out. Not for revenge anymore. I am past that. For justice, and to honor the memory of an uncle who proved that the best response to betrayal is building something better than what they tried to tear down. Final update: the sentencing hearings ended yesterday. Time to close this chapter and share how everything resolved. Brad Kelton, 15 years federal prison. Full restitution of $4 million stolen funds. Lifetime ban from serving as corporate officer in any capacity. Ashley, 8 years federal prison. Forfeiture of all assets acquired through fraud conspiracy. 2 other Mitchell Logistics executives got 46 years each for their roles in the bid rigging scheme. Judge Patricia Morrison delivered thorough remarks during sentencing. The defendants engaged in a sophisticated conspiracy that went far beyond simple corporate fraud. They systematically destroyed an innocent person's career, reputation, and livelihood, while manipulating multiple victims to participate in their scheme. The evidence shows calculated cruelty that exceeds normal business crime. I testified for 3 hours across both trials. Seeing Brad and Ashley in orange jumpsuits instead of corner offices, I felt unexpected pity for how they had destroyed their lives pursuing money they could have earned legitimately. Ashley cried during my testimony about the homelessness and failed job searches. Real tears this time, not the performance tears from our marriage. When prosecutors played her recording saying real men don't cry like babies, maybe living in your car will toughen you up, jury members winced. The cruelty was undeniable in that courtroom. Brad stared at his table throughout my testimony. His lawyer advised no emotion, but his jaw clenched when I described Mitchell Logistics' destruction and the employees who lost jobs. Mitchell Freight Solutions is thriving. We have expanded into 4 markets, hired 68 employees, and landed $50 million in new contracts. The Colorado clients became our Rocky Mountain Division foundation. Janet Flores is Regional Operations Director now. She stayed loyal when everyone abandoned me. refusing Brad's character assassination despite job threats. Real loyalty deserves real rewards. My family has been incredible. Once they learned the truth about Thomas and what really happened. My parents visit Seattle monthly. My sister Carmen helped me process the betrayal trauma. I sold the Denver townhouse and donated proceeds to a homeless transition nonprofit. Kept nothing from my Ashley life. Too many deception memories. The yacht Second Chances is my hobby now. Exploring Puget Sound weekends. I am seeing Maria Santos, a maritime lawyer in Seattle. Brilliant, funny, unimpressed by inherited wealth. When I told her my story, sounds like you learned character judgment lessons. Thomas left business journals spanning decades. I inherited values with money. Patience over quick profits. Relationships over transactions. Brad and Ashley stole $4 million. Destroyed a company worth tens of millions. Ruined dozens of careers. For money I earn in quarterly interest. Mitchell Freight Solutions employs 240 people across 5 states, with excellent benefits and merit-based advancement. That is Thomas's legacy. Proof legitimate success lasts longer than schemes. Brad and Ashley chose criminal shortcuts. They will spend the next decade in prison while I build something honoring the patience and integrity that made this possible. Sometimes, justice really is better than revenge.